called Pure Art. And myself, I'm Mariia Ponomarova. I'm Ukrainian director and producer. And we have with us today Maksim Shved, the director, and Piotr Bodak, the film editor. So I think it's very exciting to talk tonight about such topics as making a film, films in countries where we don't really have a lot of opportunities to create documentaries. And we also will be touching upon the editing in the film industry, because we often talk with film directors, film producers, with actors in fiction cinema. And tonight we will also talk with Piotr mostly about how to bring up so many different parts into one film. Also, I want to mention that you can still watch a film, Pure Art, at the platform DocuSpace, and you have still just 5 days. Don't miss this opportunity. And you can, of course, join our discussion by watching this stream at the platform DocuSpace in Ukrainian and in English. And also you can see the Ukrainian version at the Facebook of DocuDays. And you can also check the original version at YouTube. Please join us. Don't be shy. Put some questions and comments. And I'll be asking those comments and questions from our makers tonight. I will quickly pass the talk to Maxim. I will be quite curious to know how did he come up with such a project, and how did he come up with the idea of collaborating with international crew on it. So, Max, floor is yours.
Hello. The idea of this film came to me in 2016 when I was studying at Wajda Film School in Warsaw, and it was one of the ideas I have, actually the last one, because it was, truly speaking, my last chance to realize any idea in this school. I started with a topic I entered the school. It was about patriotism in Belarus. We have a lot of weird patriotic let's say habits and events, and I wanted to shoot some film about it, but I could not realize documentation. It's a part when you shoot the protagonist you want to shoot in the film or situation, and to show it in the school. So I was interested in this, let's say, patriotic or political issues of my country. And then I proposed the idea of shooting the film about squares in the walls of Minsk, which hide some secrets, let's say this way. And it was quite good feedback from my colleagues at school and my tutors. And we found producers at the school and started that project.
So, of course, we have a headline of this talk: how to make a film in a country which doesn't have a lot of means to support documentary. So probably your education in Poland already gave you some international perspective to the project. How was the part of convincing Polish colleagues that story from Belarus is still valuable and can be interesting for the rest of the world?
Yeah, when we had the first meeting at school with guys who govern the school, they said that in school you have a chance to realize a film, and it would have a, let's say, screening story. It means that someone will see this film, and they said, oh shit, I will not only have film, but someone will watch it. For me, it was really inspiring and unbelievable, because in Belarus, even if you create a film, it's mostly on your enthusiasm and enthusiasm of your friends, and it's usually not wide variety to show it. Of course, you can put it in internet, but we always dream to have contact with the real persons to understand that the message we put in film is reached or not.
Okay, so you had the chance not just to shoot the film, but also to show the film. And
Yes.
then also, did you try to find some support in Belarus? Maybe there were some, I don't know, probably I've heard that there is no like really straight line of support by like film funds, but did you try to find some, I don't know, collaborators or someone else in Belarus who could help?
Usually if we think about film industry, there is some governmental institutions which support you, usually. But in Belarus, we also have such institution. It's Ministry of Culture that gives money and decide which way it gives. And it's made this way. Everything is made in Belarus just to make view that there is some possibility to receive it. But actually, if you are not going to shoot about the 55 years of happiness under Lukashenko, you probably won't receive it. So usually we do it by very, very small budget, or just asking your friends to shoot, to edit, to act, and things like this.
Okay, but then you are already, like when you decide to make a film in Belarus, you already need to have a lot of strength and energy. And one of other questions came, of course, in the pretext of this talk is, what do you do when there is no such energy or enthusiasm left? How did you push through?
Yeah, the story is not about money, of course. We need specialists, which is also a problem in our country. If to compare, for example, to Poland, because we don't have we have institution which has this department, but it's not that quantity we need to compare, for example, with Poland. What was the question?
No, I mean, like, definitely there is a lack of people who could help you, or a lack of professionalism, but probably you did the film for a long time. So first year, apparently you had some force and enthusiasm. What did you do next years when you needed to finish the film?
Actually, we were creating it for 4 years. So I started in 2016, yes. I found producers and we got the money, but it's not like we got the money. It's a long story. They had a promise to receive money. So it was a nice idea, but actually it's nothing material until next year. So when we started to shoot, I already didn't want to shoot it, because I was really exhausted, because it took time and you have to wait, and waiting is always exhausting. But then when I saw our cameraman, Grzegorz Hartwell, he was fresh. I mean, he was ready to work and he was very engaged to this work. So I was inspired by him. But then this enthusiasm and waiting for something, for money as well, exhausted me again. But then I met Piotr and he was also fresh and very keen of this idea. So I was like vampiring energy from him. Yes, and it's always very helpful when someone is interested in what you are doing, not because of money, yes, just because he likes the idea, he likes your point of view, and tries to do the best even without money.
Well, I think that's the best moment then to watch the trailer, probably, to show how all this enthusiasm joined into one film. So
so you know the story. We have 2 trailers, one official one and one we made with Piotr in some masterclass, yes? And there is a story behind, and I think Piotr will tell it.
Oh, okay.
Shall we first watch the trailer and then you tell it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's watch the trailer then.
Абстракционизм?
Конечно.
Похож?
Супер.
Обратно. Там на заборе тоже живопись?
Можно идти работать дальше. И суть все-таки малюющую я не пойму.
Beautiful, правда?
Как белорусское небо.
Все, Макс, милиция приехала. Сворачиваемся.
Okay.
The story.
The story. You still like it? Okay, that's good. No, the story.
Yeah, I like it.
The story is very simple. Like in editing process, the most important thing always is a decision that you have to take. And you know, when you start editing, you as an editor, you always think that the editors has really decisions to take. Then you realize that there is a director, that he's the one who is really deciding. And then during the process, at the end, it's producers who can tell you what is important, what is not. And sometimes even if you feel something really good and you want to do it that way, you're simply unable to because there is a lot of purposes that the trailer has to fulfill. So in this case, they needed something else, but we focused on the vibe and the atmosphere that we wanted to create, and we did this one. And I'm very happy that Maxim still likes it.
I think it's great to know that trailers, of course, can, on different stages of the film, can serve indeed different purposes. The trailer for the pitch, or then trailer for like representing your character, or so on. But I was curious, what was your, Piotr, idea in the very, very beginning when you've heard about this project? Maybe there was some research material from Max. How did you approach this project? Because as far as I know, you don't really speak any languages that are spoken in the film, right?
Yeah, that was interesting, because when the first time I saw any materials about the movie, everything was in Russian. And I understand a little bit, but not enough to watch footage. So I was really just focusing on the atmosphere of the clips, the vibe, just some first edits that Maxim was sending me. And I was very curious, a little bit scared, and well, I jumped into it. And well, I suppose that this is also something that we should talk about, and this is one of the topics, like how to edit in the language that you don't speak. So actually, there is no mystery, because it's something that during studies of editing, you're a bit learning, right? It's really easier in fiction movies, because then you just have a script, right? So you are watching the takes, you're checking in the script what is written, you can translate it even in a Google Translator, right? So it's very easy to understand the action and to follow and to edit. But it's much more tricky in documentaries, because the characters, they are saying whatever they want, whatever they feel, whenever they want. So you don't really have an idea how to start if you don't understand anything. So then you have to focus on a very simple thing that's emotions, right? Everybody knows in film industry that film is basically pure emotions that you are creating, and just from huge part of material making a scene. So it's very important to watch the material for the first time in the prism of pure emotions. So then you can be focusing on what you like. because there is like this school of editing documentaries that you are making the transcription of everything. Everything is on paper, and it's very useful in cases that you have a lot of interviews, and it's nice to see a lot of pieces of paper in front of you and check where are the similarities about what the characters are talking about. Then you can prepare everything on paper, and then you can start editing. But in this way, you are really losing all of the emotions. That it's not only, for example, how the person said that. Was the person crying, laughing, or maybe totally neutral, super serious? But you're also losing the emotions on the face of that person. And then there is another layer that maybe the person is very happy, but the whole surroundings around the person are very, I don't know, like in a horror movie, or literally, it can be anything. Because there is so many options. So it's very nice to watch the material for the first time, not focusing on what the people are talking about, but really simply focusing on how do you like the shot and how do you like the atmosphere. So in case of, I mean, of course, this is just the beginning, because then without understanding what people are talking about, it's not possible to continue your work. But on the first stage, it's really nice to watch it, just focusing on that, with the person who understands, like Maxim. So the first time when we were watching the whole material and making the selection, because if I'm correct, we had like, we could prepare 10 hours of material for translation of 40 that we had, right?
Yes, kind of 10, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's the point, that we were watching everything, and I was really focusing on just the moments I like, that, you know, the character suddenly said something that I don't even understand what it is, but I like the vibe of what just happened. And Maxim can tell me what was that, or maybe nothing. Maybe I can just watch it on my own and just select pieces that I like. And then Maxim was not only watching the video footage, but also listening to all of the audio, because sometimes the microphones are still going when we don't shoot, just to select all of the parts that we like. And then from that, we can make the translation. Because it's like these two ways of starting creating the scene. When you have the material, you can make it like a sculpture. So you have a big piece of something, and then you're making it smaller and smaller and smaller and working on the details. But you can also start, like in this case, like a painting, that you just start in one little place. You just have the detail, just at the moment that, for example, I liked or Maxim liked, and then we just build more and more and more. So for that, you don't need to understand what they say. On that, you're gonna work later.
I think it's beautiful that you just mentioned painting method, making a film about a painter who comes outside in the streets and does something with already existing squares, as Maxim said that he wants to make a film about squares. But then I also wanted to ask why, Max, did you find that it's important that Piotr would come to Belarus? Why it was so important? Because now Piotr says that he could do everything even without understanding the language. So why it was so crucial to bring him into Minsk?
Because when we had editing period in Poland, we didn't drink, and I wanted to drink with Piotr. No, it's a joke. But really, it was a football championship, and he didn't even watch football, which is for Polish person, and not to drink was crucial. But in Minsk, you know, our film is about atmosphere. It's very difficult to show or to tell about atmosphere, yeah, without feeling it. So for me, it was really important for editor, for Piotr, to feel a little bit this walls, these people, this absurd atmosphere.
Well, you can think about it also in the way that just imagine that you read one book, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. And then when I ask you what was the book about, you're not going to really remember the whole plot, the whole action, the dialogues, nothing. You're going to remember just the feeling about it, around it, maybe sometimes even the places where you read that book, or I don't know, the food you ate, or some emotions that you were having that time. But you are the viewer, so the audience of the book. So the atmosphere that is so important for you, it's something that we as makers, we have to have it before. So to really jump into the movie and start editing, you know, if it's gonna be a movie in the same country, that you know the culture, you know the habits of people, it's much easier. Or if it's about something neutral, yeah, you don't need that. But in this case, it's very important that you understand the vibe before you start working, because otherwise you're gonna be very lost. Like, I think we were lost for a long time, because the first version of the film, it was maybe 2-3 months before we met in Minsk. It was 90 minutes. There were a lot of scenes, one big mess, a lot of propaganda, a lot of tanks, a lot of soldiers, militia. We had nights, I mean, literally nights fighting. Max, you can remind me what event was that? This 100 years of Minsk or something like that?
Yes, 50 years of Minsk.
Yeah, so we had everything, like literally. And then we realized that there is a lot of things that you can just Google it, right? You can check how looks the tanks in Minsk. It's not a problem. The important question is what we do have that you cannot check in internet or in other movies, in news, in newspapers, and so on. So really, to understand something like that in the country that is really different than yours, even if it's that close, you need to be there. And of course, if I would go alone, that wouldn't be that helpful, because I wouldn't know on what should I focus. So Max prepared a really nice trip for me, and we can see it in the pictures. So
let's show the pictures from the trip.
Yeah, and I'll continue talking about it, because you see here you have this thing that you have the ladies working in the place, and then in the next picture you can see the next step of the process, that it's Zahar who was there and he was copying it. Then you can see the next step when you have the ladies in the exhibition watching this painting, and then you have the next step that you're not going to see in the film, because the next step is us working on it. And normally that's the end of the story. You just can see the film. But in our case, we have another step to understand it much better. It's us going to the same place. That is not happening often, from what I know, that the editor is going to places to see it. But in this particular case, when our whole movie is about the atmosphere of the place, and our characters are not only Zahar, who is the protagonist and the painter, but also the cleaning ladies, but not only them, but all of the cleaning service of Minsk. And then the third character, all of the people, to understand that vibe, it was really helpful to be there. And yeah, now I know that it's not only about visiting these places and seeing only the suprematist squares on the walls, but it's also about everything else that at the beginning was really surprising for me and very interesting, like all of the, as I said before, the tanks, soldiers, and everything, all the time, everywhere. I was like really focusing, and like the Western tourists taking pictures of the communist symbols, of the posters that are really asking you to join the army and stuff like that. But just after 2-3 days, it was not important anymore, because I realized that the other people that Max introduced me to, they don't notice it anymore. So if they, we can go further with the pictures, just to see that, yeah, it's a bit egocentric that I'm showing myself in the places, but I really like it. It's interesting to see not the cameraman or the sound guy, but just the editor in the places. Yeah, but then it's like important to be able to skip all of these parts that are so obvious, that if nobody notices this militia and everything in Minsk, why do we need to show it? So for example, then we started noticing the little details that were really interesting in our work. So for example, why to show a lot of tanks if much more interesting is one big tire and a soldier who is obsessively cleaning it? You know, now you can think more about it. Just the tank is not giving you any feelings, no thoughts. Maybe you can think that it's scary. But then you think much more as a viewer when you see this tire and the soldier who maybe really believes in his duty, or maybe is just scared of not doing it properly. but that's the details that you're not going to find in Google. So that's something that if we have it, we should use it in the scene.
I think it's a great approach, because then Max kind of made a transition for you from the tourist to someone who looks from within, who sees it from inside. And then my question would be then to Max, at which stage did Piotr join you? Because you told us that you were already with your producers, and then when did you feel that it's necessary that the material will be assembled? Did you already finish the shoot, or you started editing already in the process?
Actually, I need to say that even this trip was organized mostly with the help of producers. I just gave an idea, so I need to say great thanks for that. Piotr started to work with us in the end of the process, I would say so. So we finished shooting, and like 3 or 4 months later, he joined us. We were looking for the editor. Actually, we met before. We decided to invite him for this editing period, but it was the end. It was the beginning of 2018. So it's a year next after shooting, and it took us a year. 2 months was taking translating part, and we must wait again, and waiting is the most exhausting part, as you remember. And we had like 2 editing period for a week, sitting by each other, and all other part was distance editing, let's say like this. So we write or send emails, communicate like this.
I will just remind our viewers that you guys can pose questions to Piotr and Max, and please feel free to do so in the chat. And also I'll remind, if you just joined us here, that we have both Ukrainian and English version of this talk, and you can check it out on Facebook or in the YouTube channel of DocuDays or in DocuSpace. And then I will continue back to Piotr. Piotr, I know that you had a lot of material, and you indeed had a lot of scenes with the people of Minsk. So certain talks that you already inserted in one of the first versions probably survived, but also you needed to cut some. So I know that in documentary environment, it's called Kill Your Darlings. So tell us a bit more about killing your darlings in pure art.
Well, that's not a very easy question, because you know that's the essential what we were doing, and what we really realized, and it was also I think after I went to Minsk, is that when you were editing the movie, you really have to think about the atmosphere that you are creating. And in the movie that is mostly based on atmosphere, it's really tricky to find the proper one and the proper proportion between what you want to say and what you want your characters to say. You know, not to put too much of the propaganda, not to, because, you know, we can totally make it political movie or totally make it only a movie about art, not saying a word about politics. So when you're editing the first version, probably you always try to put the most of the content you can, just to see how it works and how it sounds, because, you know, after editing nowadays in a little computer, you see it on the little screen over and over again, but then suddenly when you put it on big screen, just I don't know, when you show it to your producers or to your artistic tutor, that's totally different feeling, like if you watch it for the first time. And then when we saw all of the dialogues, we realized how much shit there is, and how many things we don't need at all. And then we started creating this atmosphere that I could say I learned in Minsk, or maybe it's Maxim's atmosphere. I mean, to see Minsk in his eyes, and this is the atmosphere he presented to me, just his point of view. So then it was much easier to start thinking in the way that if I would speak Russian, I would say it nicely. That's why I need Max to help. How you say in Russian that you all understand on your own?
Вы же сами все понимаете.
Yes, exactly. So this is a bit of the point that I didn't know that before. You know, I didn't know how it is to talk about certain stuff in Minsk. And then when I got introduced to this idea, it was much easier to start talking about stuff and start having this thing that sometimes it's very little that you need to say. You know, sometimes it's just nice to observe characters in certain place and just let them say something literal. And then you have the whole magic of edition, you know, that my favorite cut of the film, that it doesn't have to say anything else about the situation, is when you have the painting with the English word hope, and then we cut to close-up of Lenin. You understand it on your own. I don't need to comment it.
I want to tell about Killing Your Darlings. In this trailer you saw, there is a part which is not in film and not in other trailer. It's a very dynamic scene when the painting which Zahar creates falls and he ruins it. So visually it's very fantastic scene, I need to say. It's really unexpected for us, and you see Zahar really crazy man. But it was too heavy, I would say, for the film. It tells too much things about Zahar we don't need to know. It's not film about character, yeah, like a person. It's about atmosphere, and you don't need to know it, even if it looks very visually very interesting. So we had to kill this scene, but we wanted to put it at least in the trailer.
It's an amazing story. I think it's great to know, because it's definitely about choices that you both were talking, and about defining what the film is about. So I think that the next one would be again about the scenes that you were doing and thinking about the structure of these conversations that the people have with Max. But how did you decide which conversations to keep? Because I guess that there were many people who came around and many people who were probably giving different things. How did you figure out which conversation could feed the story?
I think it's a question for the Piotr, because he had even a big desk in which we put all the scenes, all these conversations, all the seasons of the year. He will tell you.
Yeah, it was not easy to organize somehow this material, because also how many times Grzegorz was coming to Minsk to shoot? Five times for 5 days, no? Yeah. So it was really visible in the material that the material was shooted in different periods of time. So it was tricky to find the proper order for the scenes, as well, because of some little errors, like stupid orange jacket of Zahar that he was sometimes wearing, sometimes not. That was really confusing how he got it, why he was having it, because it's clearly, maybe not for the Western audience, but for everybody speaking Russian, it's clear that it looks like, and it's written that he's a public worker. So there was a lot of problems like that, and we were having a lot of different orders of the conversations. That first we were trying about the chronology of shooting days, then we tried about the chronology of the not existing and existing the jacket. So there was a lot of ways that we were trying to organize it, until we found a way to organize the material about the topics and how deeply we are going inside the conversation. So I guess that's when I'm finally answering your question. So the point was that we knew that some of the conversations are better than the others. And of course, how it is always in film industry, that when you're preparing the shootings, you have to kind of secure yourself. And if your idea is that people are gonna come and talk with you, you have to be sure that if you prepare the whole scene, there has to be some people just in case. So you're always having, how you would call them, Maxim? They are not actors, they are just...
Prepared prepared characters, prepared.
Yeah, so honestly, all of that it was the weakest, you know, because it's just not natural, not, I don't know how to call it. It's just like this thing that when I was saying at the beginning about you just
fake.
feel it's fake, yeah, yeah. So it was fake, and we were really struggling with that a lot because, of course, there was a lot of very interesting dialogues that if we would write them down on paper, they look really nice, but not in the film. So then we had some points very interesting that were completely happening by chance, like the drunken guy drawing in a very primitive way Lukashenko in the first painting. We have the old teacher of the ice skating, and unfortunately he's also struggling with a lot of problems, but that's making him an interesting character who has a lot of things to say that are meaningful. One of the best conversations that we knew since the beginning that it is very important is the older guy who is absolutely not understanding the concept of abstract art. So he doesn't want to understand what we are doing, what Zahar is doing. But that's beautiful, that he's not just like many people saying, screw it. And no, he's starting the dialogue. That is very essential, till the point that, if I'm correct, it's like 30 seconds shot that we are not cutting because there is no need. We just go with the statement of both of the guys, and we want to know how they're gonna end up their conversation.
Oh, that's definitely, I think I really clearly remember it, and it definitely kicks off the whole film. Yeah. And I kind of will switch to the question from the audience. So the audience asks if you guys will continue working together. Will Piotr work on the next project of Maxim? Maxim, I think it's
up to you.
I really would like to, because now I'm working on my next film, and now I'm on the editing period, and I feel the difference. It's not only about professionalism, it's about also personal communicating. And I think we found each other, Piotr.
Yeah.
But now I have very quick production, so I need to make my film very soon. So I don't have this opportunity to make it slowly, and that's why I could not afford Piotr. But I would like.
Perfect. And then I also will probably come back to one of the things that you guys mentioned before, is about showing your film or your trailer or a part of the edit to someone else, and specifically to the mentor. So I know that you were mentored by Jacek Blaut. How was his impact to your film? How was his advice? How did you feel with his advices? How it was with with him in your environment?
I get acquainted with Jacek in film school, in Wide Film School, and Piotr was studied at Lodz Film School, where Jacek is also tutor. So we know him from this work, and he was really helpful. I would say that he was always on the side of director or the film. Even the trailers you saw, he supported our way of seeing this trailer, not producers. But you know, it's very good when you have someone who already is working as a director, so he feels what the director feels, and sometimes he can help you not only with professional help, but like a kind of psychotherapy. Yeah, and you sometimes need it.
I mean, will it help you because it's just a long process? Does it help you because it's just someone who is more experienced? In which way did it help?
This is difficult because when you're working on a fiction movie, you have the script, so a lot of things can change, but more or less you know the story. And in the documentaries, you don't know the story. You are not even sure until really late point who is going to be the protagonist of the movie. So if you have so many different versions and so many different concepts, ideas, plots, narrations, you sometimes need just to show it to somebody who is going to tell you, this is all shit. Or who is going to tell you, yeah, finally, this is something that is worthy trying. And then that person is guiding you. And you know that this is how it works with a tutor. Like, he's not going to sit and do it instead of you. He's just going to tell you, like, okay, this is good idea. This is good direction. And sometimes you really need it. And it's very good that if you work with a very professional tutor, because sometimes you have, for example, 3 versions of the film. Each of them, it's 40 minutes. The changes are very little, and you send 3 of them, and you would like to know which one is better and why.
Yeah, I remember Jacek watched our rough cut, and it was like a little silence after that. And then he said, okay, very good. And now we need to make a film from this. So he is on your side and you trust him. This is important. Feedback is important, but you take it only when it's someone you can trust. And Jacek is a person you can trust.
Thank you, Jacek, if you're watching us.
Perfect. And I think that also it's a good transition to the question that you raised a bit on choosing the material. You were saying in our private conversation that you were thinking that it might fall into the propaganda film, that there will be a lot of political parts of it, and that you wanted to find a truth in documentary. So I was just curious if you were trying to find certain truth, or if you even believe in truth in documentary, or which part it plays in all this constructed world.
Huh. You know, that's a difficult question, because while during the editing process, I was looking for things that they can inspire me about how to make a movie about a country like that. And I watched a lot of films about North Korea that also inspired my master work in school. And then we were discussing a lot of them with Maxim, and we had really different point of views. And that also shows that for somebody who is inside living there, it's completely different than for a person who is outside. Because, I mean, nowadays, just especially now this month, the whole world talks about Belarus, right? But just 2 years ago, maybe I saw one news in the internet that actually, if you are a truck driver and you're going through Belarus, if you have a car accident, it's your fault and you go to jail. So basically, that's the information that you can gather about the country, and then you don't know. So then when you start working on the material and you see all of these tanks, soldiers, everything, you want to create the world that you believe in, you know, that's the one that is constructed in your head. That's why it was very important again for me to go to Minsk and to see the city through Maxim's eyes, to start making the proper selection, to try to make something that is not very subjective, but objective. And why? Just because it's more interesting. Because if I make a very strong statement that this is the best or the worst country to live in, I'm kind of taking away from the viewer the possibility to decide. And especially about our movie, when everything is about things that are not said. We are never criticizing anybody or saying that anybody, I mean, I'm talking about politicians now, if they do good or bad. We just show it out as it is. And then you, as the viewer, you can decide what's your point of view on that and what you understand. So I think that this is up to the viewers to decide if this Minsk that we created in Pure Art, if this is objective point of view.
I know that Max has some updates on the Pure Art on streets of Minsk on these days. Max, how is it going with the painted walls?
Now it's the I don't know, revolution on the walls. As in all countries, the walls are fighting. So even today, I send you photos, and in one you can show it. No, this before next one. In this, you see Lukashenko лучший в мире. It means Lukashenko is the best in the world. And it was interesting for me if it would be coward. I was sure that it would be coward because it's not. They cover them not because it's saying something wrong or good. It's covering because we need to have clean walls. But I am just guessing what is on the corner of this saying, because Lukashenko can be the best in the world dictator or something else. So you always need to watch the corner. This is the same about the truth in the documentary. I don't believe in the truth in any films or at all. It's for me, it's just an author's interpretation of reality. Even this conversation can be by us can be remembered as different. Of course, if we are talking about the dog exists, but our impressions from this conversation can be different, and we are not telling the facts in the film. We're just trying to show the point of view. And we also try to be as our main protagonist, Zahar, to be a little bit abstract in our film. So any viewer can interpret what he or she see by themselves. And truth is very obvious.
And probably less interesting.
Yes.
I was curious, Piotr, you were, of course, making a couple of cuts, and you started from 90 minutes. Were there some points that you felt that you need to strengthen the rhythm? How did you build the rhythm of the film? And how did this whole process of having these conversations and then showing the canvas all kind of mixed together when you chose the right bits?
Well, it's always like crying and bleeding while you are working on the movie, and it was not an easy process. And there was, it's like if we were editing for a very long time, because it was almost a year, there were moments that after 1-2 weeks of just trying to create the scenes, suddenly it's working. And then 1 month we are just trying something, I'm sending it to Max is giving me his feedback, and suddenly, oh, this is a nice part. And so on. We had some scenes that we totally cut out, some with hardcore Russian punk music, some of them with classical music, just to try, because basically editing is about trying. I mean, you can have the idea for the structure, but as long as you cannot see it, you cannot be sure 100% if it's good idea or bad one. So we were having a lot of bad ideas until we found out the ones that we really liked. And then it's also about the transitions. As Maxim mentioned before, we had a big, in Minsk when we were editing, we had a big whiteboard where we were writing down all of the scenes, because we were almost sure that we have the scenes, that they are really good, but we were not sure about the order and as well about transitions. Because now, if you watch the film, you can see that a lot of transitions are very smooth or meaningful on the cuts, and it's because we put a lot of attention in the last weeks of the process about finding this nice rhythm of going further. Sometimes in the words, sometimes just in some movements, or even the feeling between two shots. Like the one that I like a lot is when you have the tank going down the street, and then you have the mural, Minsk loves Moscow. Enough, in my opinion.
I think that I will just also remind our viewers that they are really encouraged to ask Piotr and Max their questions. Please keep on doing that in the chat. and we're going to wrap up soon. But then my question would be to Max. How did this film was received in Belarus, and did you have any feedback from your maybe not that wide as Polish industry, but your film colleagues? And did they think that it was a good idea to have this international collaboration to make this film happen?
I don't want to be shy anymore, as I am not only one, because when you have some film screening, you're always invited as a director, but if you have someone from your team, it's always better, because I really think it's a work of a lot of people, not just mine. And that's why I want to say that it's very good film, and it was very wide watched in Belarus. It has like really great success among viewers, which is the most important for me, and among critics. The most unexpected thing was that this film was invited to our main film festival, Listopad, and we received the prize from the critics. And we had a screening in the cinemas, which is also not very usual for documentaries, and a special Belarusian one. And this screenings was, I don't know how to say, they supposed it to be finished, but the cinema theater want to show it again and again and again. So it was really great success. A lot of people from Belarus sent to me in Messenger and Instagram that it's a cool film, and I know like hundreds of people who watched it 2 and 3 times, which is very strange, because when I am as a director have to watch it 11th or 52 times, so I just try to find something new this way. But when just a simple person, just an ordinary viewer watch it for the 3rd time, for me it's quite unexpected.
And Piotr, how did you feel after you wrapped up the film? You did a picture lock, all was done. How do you think the film was received in Poland? I think it was screened in Poland, right?
Yeah, honestly, I felt relieved. I felt empty. I was working also already in another project, so I had to focus on something else. That's the sad part of editor's life, that you just finish a project, you have to go to another one, and then the director is going to the festivals. And now even, I don't know how it was really received in Poland, because now I live in Spain. So I missed the opportunity to see it in the Polish cinemas. We are waiting for a festival here to know if maybe Maxim is gonna come here. Nobody knows about COVID, so don't know what to say. I'm happy that the film is done, happy that we can be talking.
Well, that's also leads me, as far as no one in the chat is asking any questions, I will be wrapping up with the question to you both. How do you see the idea that this film is now mostly watched online, that our viewers will watch it at DocuSpace, that unfortunately we cannot really go to cinemas widely and also do this, have this cinema run in Ukraine? What was your experience with giving your film to the platform?
Shortly, I can just say that I have subscribed Netflix, Prime Video, HBO, Quibi, and Spanish one called Filmin. So yeah, I'm a fan of platforms, and I'm happy that the film is there, because that's a way of showing it to people. And this is something very interesting from the sociologist point of view, that normally people don't watch documentaries, and now my friends who are not related with the film industry, I know that they are watching documentaries on Netflix. So I think that if documentaries are online, maybe this is a much easier way for ordinary viewer to find it and to watch it and to learn something new. And I don't know, what's your opinion, Max?
As for me, of course, I'm very happy that the film is reachable by internet. So a lot of people who wanted to watch it, and they have only chance to visit festival, which is sometimes a problem. But on the other way, I, as a director, when I am invited to the festival, sure, I would like to see people feedback and to drink some beer with some Belarusians who came to this presentation. But now, in these days, when Belarus is changing, this film is, if we are talking about content, is a little bit old school. There is no more this Belarus we show in this film. So for me, now it's even like more interesting to watch it again to see what I believe already need to forget.
I think it's the best message for our audience who is listening to us now, that now it's like a cenotaph. You created something that hopefully will not exist anymore. And then I will just remind our viewers that they can, if you still didn't watch the Pure Art, please go and watch it. You have still 5 days at docuspace.org. Oh my God, I hope I'm not making any mistakes. But anyhow, I would love to thank Piotr and Maxim for such a great conversation. I would also say that Pure Art is the first film that is present at DocuSpace, and there will be one film per month appearing. So Pure Art was the film of the August, and then in next month we already can tell you which film will be next, and it will be American film called July. Please don't miss it, guys. You're also, of course, if you're in the territory of Ukraine, or if it will be available for the whole world, we'll know it soon. Please also join and watch. I see that Max's dog is also joining to say goodbye. And yeah, I think it was great to go through your process, and please keep on doing films. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And живе Belarus!
О, живе Belarus!
Живе!
Живе.